Okay, if we can, we'll go ahead and bring the meeting to order. It is 5:15. Today's date is September 12th. This is the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Chris Jordan, and I'm the chairman of this commission. I would like to remind everyone to silence their electronic devices. For those in the audience tonight, if you would do that, we'd appreciate that as well. And then for the commission members, when you speak, please make sure that your microphones are on. So we will start with our council liaison, who is not here or present at this point. So we'll start with our commission members. If you can introduce yourself.
Emily Fretwell.
Michelle Mahoney.
Penny Quigg.
Beth Sweeten.
Dale Vaughn.
Hank Vogt.
Bunny Tricky Cotton.
Eric Barron, the planning manager.
Anna Naniski, city planner.
Ian Zollinger, city planner.
Sonny Sanders, director of planning and protective services.
Brian Wolford, city staff.
Thank you. The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. Alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of a regular member. A quorum of 5 members or alternates is necessary to conduct business. I do believe we will have quorum tonight. The following regular members are absent. We have Chris Yarnell, Michael Lester, Jack Deacon, Dean Dutoy, and we do believe that Blake Marcus is not going to be able to make it this evening. He let us know just here in the last few minutes. Is there any members or alternates who will be disqualifying themselves to vote on any agenda item tonight? I'm seeing none, so we will have quorum with the following voting members: Dale Vaughn, Bunny Tricky Cotton, Michelle Mahoney, Hank Vogt, Penny Quigg, and Emily Fretwell. We have one case this evening. It is a city-initiated case. It is case number P19019. It is a medical marijuana text amendment number 3. I'm assuming we do have staff here that will present that. Is there any reasons for continuance for that? Seeing none. We do have, I don't know if we call it a reordering or amendment to the agenda. City staff has notified me that we need to work on election of officers. So under miscellaneous business or other business, item D will be elections of officers. When we get to that point, we will discuss what's going on with that with the commission members that are here this evening. So other than that, is there any requests for reordering or anything else with the agenda?
No.
Okay. Ian, I will ask that you will read the format and the hearing and the order of testimony, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the Commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please step forward to the microphone when you speak and give your name and address for the record. The standard order for each case is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or their consultants will provide information on the request. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes unless additional time is granted by the Commission. The applicant shall have 3 additional minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the Commission. City staff will then make their recommendation on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, references to printed material, including staff reports and applicable findings, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the Commission. The Commission will close testimony from the floor. The Commission will then discuss the proposal, then publicly make its determination with reasons. The form of the motion shall be positive, that is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor and nays opposed. The chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the City Code of the City of Jefferson as amended, the Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and/or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, the rules of procedures for the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. These items are public record and available for inspection in the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. Please be advised that any items that are presented, distributed, or otherwise received pertaining to these items under these cases under consideration become the property of the Commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ian. This time we will adopt the agenda. I will entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Presented, or the amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Staff has been so kind to put together the minutes from our last regular meeting of June 13th. So when the commission is ready, we will entertain a motion to approve or amend those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Again, the motion carries 6-0. I don't believe we have any communications this evening.
No.
Okay. We will move on to new business and public hearings. Again, the case number is P19018, a medical marijuana text amendment number 3. I believe Anna is going to present tonight.
Okay. Thank you. So the purpose of this text amendment is to permit medical, what? I'm sorry, am I loud enough? Ooh, okay. Is to permit the medical marijuana testing and transportation facilities into the C2 General Commercial District. Now, medical marijuana was an approved use by the November 2018 vote to amend the Missouri Constitution regarding medical marijuana. And city staff, we have incorporated the medical marijuana uses into the Jefferson City Zoning Code in 2 major phases. We chose to do this phase system to incorporate these brand new uses into our zoning code slowly. So phase 1, that was in regard to the cultivating, processing, and testing facilities, that was passed on June 3rd. And phase 2, which dealt primarily with the retail dispensaries, and that was passed on July 15th. Now, this is coming back in front of you because, working with these brand new legal uses is new for everyone involved. And when we went through the process, the application process with some potential facilities, we recognized that the testing and transportation facilities were also applicable to the C2 General Commercial District. Now, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, they are responsible for all licensing, regulating, and monitoring of said medical marijuana facilities. And us as local municipalities, we can establish some land use regulations for medical marijuana facilities. That's what we're doing now. Now, there are 5 different types of medical marijuana facilities, but today I'm only going to be talking about the testing and the transportation facilities. Testing facility, it is an establishment that acquires, tests, certifies, and transports medical marijuana. And a transportation medical marijuana facility is an establishment that distributes medical marijuana to qualified patients and certified facilities. So back and forth. So this text amendment, the medical marijuana testing facility is currently permitted in the M1 and M2 zoning districts. That is light industrial and general industrial zoning. So this amendment proposes that the medical marijuana testing facility would be a permitted use in the C2 general commercial zoning district. They would be prohibited in all other districts. And the medical marijuana testing facility can be categorized as like a laboratory or research operation. Thus, this action is appropriate because medical, industrial, and research testing or experimental laboratories are also permitted in the C2 zoning district. And in regards to the transportation facility, they are also, my apologies. They are currently permitted in the M1 and M2 zoning districts as well. And this amendment proposes that the medical marijuana transportation facility would be a permitted use in the C2 general commercial district. They would be prohibited in all other districts. Again, this action is appropriate because delivery and dispatch services with vehicles are also permitted within the C2 zoning district. The specific use standards in regards to the medical marijuana facilities that have been applicable to all other facilities through this whole process still apply in this case. So again, the purpose of this text amendment is to permit the medical marijuana testing and transportation facilities in the C2 general commercial zoning district. Thank you.
Okay. Do any commission members have any questions for Anna or other city staff at this point? Okay.
When it comes to like distribution, if somebody were in a C1 dispensary and they wanted to distribute from that dispensary, is that?
Yeah, so how it works is that the transportation facilities can carry the medical marijuana from
that dispensary?
From that facility to another facility, or from a facility to a transportation facility.
Or a cultivation
The
facility.
hub, in regards to the transportation facility, is they're located in the C2. They can cross other zones no matter what. It's just where they are allowed to take the medical marijuana to in this case.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions from the commission members for Anna or other city staff? Okay, I'm seeing none. I think at this point we will open it up because this is a public hearing, and we will go through the normal steps to ask, one, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Lastly, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this request? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Again, seeing none. At this point, we will close testimony. Anna, I will ask if there's anything else you'd like to report.
I don't have anything else besides the fact that city staff recommends approval of this text amendment, and there's a form of motion on the back of the staff summary.
Okay. Do any commissioners have any last questions for Anna or city staff? Okay, we're seeing none. At this point, would someone like to entertain a motion?
I'll move that for approval of the zoning code text amendment pertaining to medical marijuana testing and transportation facilities as presented by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
So the motion, we have 5 in favor and 1 against. The motion would still be forwarded on to City Council. Correct, Counselor? Okay.
Cotton. Mahoney. Vaughn.
Aye.
Vaught.
Aye.
Quigg.
No.
Fretwell.
Okay, again, the motion is 5-1. It will pass and will be forwarded to the City Council, correct?
Monday, October 21st.
So Monday, October 21st, 6 p.m.?
Yes.
6 p.m. in this room. Again, that will be a public hearing. If anyone would like to come to that, it'll be fine. Okay, thank you. We will move on to other business. Again, we have amended the other business to add potentially the election of officers. I think Eric will present items A and B, and then Anna will be back for item C, and then we'll move to item D, election of officers. So Eric, if you wouldn't mind, let's start with item A, short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that we thought appropriate to bring back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's been about a year and a half ago that short-term rentals were incorporated into the zoning code. That was done after a couple meetings and discussion here at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then incorporated into the zoning code basically as a special exception use for the single-family districts where most of these things would be located. And so these are the Airbnbs or the vacation rental by owner type uses that individual property owners might pursue, listing their property online as a nightly rental. Okay, a fairly popular thing it is becoming nationwide and somewhat in Jefferson City. And it's also a fairly new phenomena, largely brought forward because of the availability of the internet, the ease of listing such things. Renting one's home out for a transitory use, for the general public is nothing new. Of course, it's been around since forever, going back into history. But it was always basically considered a prohibited use. It's a commercial activity within a residential setting. Well, so that was brought forward as a discussion item, and eventually, the conclusion was that it's an okay use, but it was established as a special exception use in those single-family districts, actually permitted in the commercial districts, but it's the single-family districts that most of these, I think, originate. So now that it's been in place for, I said, about a year and a half, back up one more. Along with being established as a special exception use, there was also some specific use standards that were incorporated into the zoning code as well. So a set of standards that anyone who's going to pursue a nightly rental for a portion of or all of a home, standards that they have to follow. And so there's a listing of those. We don't have those listed, no, within the zoning code, though. And the question that has basically arisen not only in staff's mind, but as this is these cases are brought forward to the city council level, we've brought a total of 9 short-term rentals forward as special exception permit requests to the city council. All but one of those got approved. The one that didn't get approved was a somewhat unique case. It was one of the first ones, and the property owner, the applicant, actually did not attend that meeting. I think that had a large bearing on the decision in front of that body. But even some, we've found that a staff review of each one of these cases, we basically come to the conclusion that a short-term rental basically has very little impact on surrounding property owners. There is an impact, but it's very minimal compared to other uses that happen to be a permitted use in single-family districts. And the most, probably the most relevant example might be a daycare home, where a daycare home is a permitted use in a single-family district. Any homeowner can start up a daycare home for up to 10 children in their home, and that results in a certain amount of traffic and activity at their home. And when you compare other, uses of multiple family members living in a home, and you compare that to the impact of a short-term rental, we as staff are coming up with a very low level of impact. That even in terms of traffic is usually just a couple vehicle trips, not out of character with a residential area. In terms of activity of the residents is sometimes might even be less than what would be found in a normal single family home, people renting a home for a night. And so we thought it appropriate to bring this back for basically for question, to see if this is the best way for this to be incorporated into the zoning code as a special exception use, or whether it's something that should just be permitted outright. Is really, we at the staff level are starting to lean heavily toward that type of recommendation, but wouldn't want to get too far ahead of decision makers in terms of bringing an actual amendment to the code forward. We believe that a lot of the concerns that neighborhoods might have regarding a short-term rental are already addressed within the specific use standards. Things regarding the number of people that can be within the residence. It's capped at a certain number, basically the same number that would be allowed as a family. And ensuring that that the residence has the safety equipment, the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detector, it passes building code and fire code inspections, things like that. We believe that the concerns are largely addressed within the specific use standards, and it's starting to basically, when we as staff look at these cases, we believe that we would have a very hard time coming up with a negative recommendation simply because the use has a fairly low level of impact no matter where it's located. And we're curious what you all think. If you agree with that kind of analysis, or if you have different thoughts.
Well, Eric, one of the things that I was thinking about while you were filling us in on that information is going back to my days when I sat in your seat, and daycares were a special exception, or they went to the Board of Adjustment, a conditional use permit, and we were, as staff, we were seeing numerous daycares coming forward, and kind of got to the same point where you were at this point, I believe, with this, is that you bring them before the body, they met all the criteria, and it was just a process, a bureaucratic process that necessarily didn't need to happen. And at that time, as staff, we looked at it and said, let's go to the Planning and Zoning Commissioner or the council or whoever and get this where staff can administer it and take care of it. So I think that's, if I'm hearing you right, and from the processes that I remember back those many years ago in history, as you say, it sounds like it might work. So, way back. You notice I have readers now. Thank you. Anyway, that would be my thought at this point. I think you said it basically the same way. I obviously want the commission's opinion on that, but I really think if we can obviously maintain our neighborhoods and quality of life for those constituents and people in those homes and our neighbors and so on and so forth, I think it's a good thing to try to look at making, again, things less bureaucratic. So I'll open it up to the commission. That was just my initial thought.
I would like to agree that, I think you know how I feel because I think I've discussed it with you. I think it's way too bureaucratic and it's silly. I mean, because of the standards that typically that has to take place online is above our standards as far as these Airbnbs go, and I think that we need to let go of that control myself.
I have more of a question. When you look on like VRBO or Airbnb, are there really only 8 active properties for short-term rental?
I have not looked like recently within just the last, I think,
I just
couple
wonder if
months.
everybody's following by
Um,
the code.
I'm not, so we did have a number of them out there that came prior to establishing this, and they were sent notices. I'm not currently aware of any, violation type issues out there, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if there's something. It's incredibly easy to list one. However, the company, at least one of the major companies, I think has incorporated into their process the reality that they need to have a business license from the city, and so I think that is incorporated in there, and whether that's for all of them, I doubt, but I'm not not aware of any current issues. So.
Would the city still be vetting the license applicants?
It depends what you mean by the question of vetting.
Well, I guess I'm thinking that there may not be places that we want to be listed as an Airbnb for a possible rental.
And so that is the basis of a special exception permit, is to make that determination whether there are areas that should or should not. And so that's the question, is basically that we would have a hard time identifying any property. We look primarily at the impact on surrounding property, and what we're coming up with when we look at that is that it's a minimal impact. They need their parking spots that's outlined within the standards. They need to have a cap on the number of people that can stay there that's outlined within the standards. It needs to be safe, inspected. That's outlined in the standards. But in terms of identifying certain areas of the city where such things are, should or should not be, that's the question before you.
Has this been discussed with the city's counselor at this point?
Yeah, the law department is aware of this being presented to you. So yeah.
Not trying to hog the microphone here, but what are you seeing, regionally, nationally, or whatever? What is the trend? Is there a trend yet?
I think that the trend is probably more toward an easier approval process. I think it depends on where you are. I think there's still a lot of cities out there that are not regulating it at all. I don't know that we can compare ourselves here in Jefferson City to the ones that are notable out there, because a lot of them are vacation oriented, and that's not necessarily the situation here. It's still transitory, travelers and such, but we don't have strings of them along a shoreline or anything like that. It is a fairly small market, I believe. We are, getting, some concern from applicants of the costs associated with an application are somewhat high compared to, to the dollar amounts that they're dealing with on revenue. An application being filed in front of this body is not a cheap undertaking, and then sending it on to the city council for approval too. And then, a business license on top of that. The business license would still be in place. We still believe that is a necessary thing. It's still a commercial activity. With some of the cases that are brought forward have had, I would say high levels of concern from surrounding property owners. A case out in Covington Gardens area in particular. A very large number of people came out in opposition of that request. And they had a number of concerns. I think a number of their concerns were addressed by standards. A number of them concerns were simply not wanting that type of use or feeling it appropriate there. And so there is that still out there. I think that the best response that at the staff level that we can give to that high level of concern is that that really, when we look at the actual impacts on surrounding property owners, we're coming up with a very low level of impact. They may not agree with that, and that's why we're bringing it forward for discussion, because it can be a sensitive topic.
I guess I'll ask, and the three of you sitting there are the real estate gurus in the room these days. Maybe you don't want to answer it, but do you have an opinion from a real estate perspective of, do you see where it's affecting sales of homes, affecting values, affecting anything that as a body here that we should consider that the special exception, again, goes back and puts more constraints where the city and everyone has a little bit of more teeth in it if they want it, where if it's more streamlined, it's just going to happen. And I'm sure that,
I just would like to add, I think that unfortunately the property owners, I think we're envisioning a Southwest DeVille going up instead of Airbnb. I mean, it has no effect, in my opinion, of, there's plenty of rental properties in Covington Gardens that are not getting city licensed, that those people are unaware that they're even rental properties. And there's, they don't have to, and to me, if you don't have to go through, there's where your devalue comes, this as an appraiser. I mean, if it's a permanent rental property, it does affect values, but temporary, it has no effect. The people that are temporarily, it's going to increase your value probably, if anything. So it's my feelings.
Because they'll also make those properties better so that more people will want to rent them. So they're going to improve those properties with the money that they get to make them more appealing to the public. So, I feel like getting it more streamlined would probably be a better way to go. And I feel like if there was ever an issue with the public, or if there was a problem with a property, then we would look at it closer at that time. Our staff would, things could be done if it became an issue.
thank you. Have anything to answer? Penny, please.
We had two cases where the surrounding people were extremely emotional. That one lady that was here, I thought she was ill. And then I realized that she was just, as they say on Saturday Night Live, verklempt over it. And to me, taking all the emotion out of it and just making it a process, I think would make everybody's life simpler. And it's not like we've got 53 people wanting to do it. It's a few people. Your home is your biggest asset, and if you can maximize the benefit you get from your home and do it legally, why not?
Yes.
I'm curious, the two cases you speak of that people were very emotional, were those both approved?
Well, one was not approved because the owner did not show up. They were approved here. But not at City Council.
And the one that wasn't approved was basically a room for rent type situation. It wasn't even a full home. I guess they could have done. But yeah, it was in a subdivision where there were some retirees that weren't really happy about it. So.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I think what staff is asking is if they should draft the paperwork to bring it back to us, whether or not we want to work on a text amendment, correct? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, let's just do a motion. If you guys are fine with that, we'll do a motion to ask staff to go ahead and move forward with it. That fair, Eric? We'll take a quick vote.
Yes.
And all that. So if someone would like to come up with the verbiage of asking staff to move forward, I'd appreciate that. Let you all do that, and then we'll just take a vote.
I move that we ask the staff to move forward with the text amendment regarding temporary rental, short-term rentals.
To move them from a special exception to a permitted use.
Yes. Did you get that?
Within, basically all of the residential zoning districts.
I'll second that motion.
There you go.
Your voice got really deep there at
I
the
know.
end.
My work.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 6-0.
So we'll work that up. We'll work up a draft bill and also a staff report in the usual manner, advertise it for a public hearing, and put it on the agenda for the next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then we'll get to talk about it again and hopefully see what the public thinks of it.
Fair enough. Thank you. Appreciate you guys thinking of that, and I think it's always good if we can work better to make things work for both sides of the aisle, you guys and our constituents in the city of Jefferson. So you have some updates on prior cases, Eric?
Do we have a slide on that? Nope. We don't, do we?
There was the case that was presented on the June Planning and Zoning Commission meeting was the Rose International off-site parking lot. They have since submitted plans for that parking lot, and it actually ended up being smaller than anticipated, and so which that can be approved administratively if it's smaller than what was originally approved, and so we're working on reviewing that.
And that was approved by the City Council, Dale.
So that was originally for a 100-space parking lot based on our minutes from that meeting, so they reduced that down to,
let's say, less than half.
Wow, big reduction. Any questions of city staff on updates in prior cases? I'm assuming that's all you all have on those? Correct, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. I believe we'll move on to item C, comprehensive plan update. Anna, I think that's you.
Yep, that is me.
Okay.
So I'm just going to give you guys a quick little update about what's been happening through this planning process. We're still holding stakeholder interviews. This is a mixture of city staff, members of the public, city council, and we've got our workshops going on as well. There are 2 more on September 19th and October 24th. The one on October 24th will be a little unique than what we've been doing because it's going to be more of a mapping workshop where people who are more visually inclined can interact with the map of Jefferson City and talk about the strengths and weaknesses that way. We also have the online survey for those unable to attend the community workshop. As of Monday, when I checked, we've had 29 responses, so we are still very much looking for more public feedback because it's just really important to build this comprehensive plan, and because all of the topics discussed in the community engagement portion feeds directly into the goals and strategies of the comprehensive plan, which can have a huge impact on our city. And then moving forward with phase 3, once all of the community engagement is wrapped up, I will be drafting up a draft comprehensive plan, and we're also going to be working on the draft future land use map, which is a big component of the comprehensive plan, and we will be hosting another P&Z work session to go over that tool. If anyone has any more questions in regard to the comprehensive plan, just let me know. We also encourage everyone to come out to the workshops and to share all of this information with everyone you know.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys doing that, and I'm sure you told us at one point or another, but the last time the comprehensive plan update was done was when?
96. So
96.
It is much needed to have an update.
As Dale would say,
were you
ago,
there?
Right?
Yeah, I believe the staff at the time did a very good job.
That'd be questionable.
I think.
I'm sure my name is in there somewhere. Now, I appreciate what you guys are doing on that and look forward to moving forward with that. So if anybody has anything, let Anna know, and we'll go from there. Awesome. Lastly, Eric, I guess if you want to talk about item D that we added to the agenda.
Yes, election of officers. It is my apology. Actually, we were supposed to put this on the agenda in June, and we failed to do that. And then, of course, we haven't had meetings for the two months after that. And then so we've inserted it through amending the agenda this month. We discovered the error, and would request that the election officers take place. You do have the ability to, if you're not comfortable with your current the people that are here today, you do of course have the ability to push it off to next month. But we do want to keep it on the agenda until it's done, and so whatever your desire is. Oh, no, this is election of the chair and election of the vice chair. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't do any politicking. I run a clean campaign. I'll ask commissioners tonight. We know we do have a lot of folks not here. It's up to you guys what you all want to do, whether you want to move forward tonight or you guys want to table it. But I'll open it up to you all and go from there.
I have a question. What's the limit again? Am I year 8?
So for terms, commissioners are appointed on a 4-year term. Those terms start in May, and then they go for 4 years, and so reappointments occur in May. A commissioner can serve 2 terms and then can be appointed for a 3rd term, but that requires a supermajority vote at the city council level. So it is the city council that appoints the commissioners, as they do for all of the commissions across the city, basically. And I believe that I looked before the meeting, and so the 2 commissioners that would be up for reappointments next May is Dale Vaughn and Michael Lester. I believe that's correct without going back and looking again. But everyone except the alternates are eligible to serve as chair and vice chair. Alternates are not. Although alternates can vote on those positions.
So in those terms, most people on here have been appointed as an alternate originally, and then do those terms are those part of the?
And yeah, my apologies. So alternates and most members are appointed as an alternate first, and then gradually they graduate up to a regular membership as those spots become open. And so alternates are appointed on a 1-year term, so they're renewed every year in May again until such time as they graduate up to the regular position. Occasionally an appointee will come in straight to a regular position, but that's usually to fulfill a very specific need, such as there are traditional positions that are, held, on a planning and zoning commission. An appraisal position could be one example. Or to fill a need within a specific ward of the city. If it's lacking membership, it would be someone appointed to a straight position rather than going through the alternate graduation process.
So then is our discussion tonight basically if we're all happy with the way it is now?
No. Our discussion tonight is to re-elect Chris Jordan as the chair and Chris Yarnell as the vice chair is what our discussion is.
So do we make a motion then to vote them in to re-elect?
Correct? Is that correct? Is that what the discussion is?
I believe that's what occurred last year.
Yeah. So, and Chris Yarnell's not here to defend himself, so I think it's a perfect time to take a vote.
Yeah, and I'm happy with keeping it the same because I think they're doing an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Very well spoken.
I appreciate.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to keep Chris Jordan as chairman and Chris Yarnell as vice chairman.
I'd second that.
Do you want them separate, or are you fine with together? You're good. We have a motion and a second. I don't get any way to plea my way out of this.
Yeah, right.
I haven't done a bad enough job to get fired.
Not yet.
I appreciate your guys' confidence in me. I do sadly kind of enjoy it. As you kind of know, my degree is in urban planning. As you know, I sat in Eric's seat many moons ago. 1800? No. But anyway, I do enjoy, I appreciate your all's confidence in myself, and I know that Chris Yarnell historically has done a great job of backing me up. I know Bonnie's done it once before. I think, didn't you? Or did you get out of it that time?
I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm good.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway. So anyway, any other discussion? You don't need roll call, do you? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
Yeah, right.
Motion carries 6 to 0. I won't vote. Can't vote for myself. I don't think that's right. Anything else from city staff?
Nothing else. I do believe we'll have a meeting next month. We have at least, at least two things to speak about. So we'll see you next month.
Okay. And I doubt you'll get together on the short term by then. I think you'll probably have a little more time.
The short term?
Yeah.
Actually, it is our intent to bring
that
it
forward as well?
To bring that forward. Yep. To advertise it up and bring it
The
forward.
speed of City Hall. Yeah, write that one down. Yeah. Nothing else from staff. I will ask if there's anything else of the commissioners. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.